Y'all have a great following. You do a great show. And Tyler, oh man, there's that background again.
I know.
Forgot. Oh, it's such a good
pictures.
It looks so nice. You were in the building last night. How was it?
It was not a good start, but it was an absolutely electric finish. That place was on fire by the end of that hockey game. And yeah, man, it felt like Edmonton's grabbed back momentum a bit in this series. And I know that going game by game in a playoff run like this, you can trick yourself, right? If you ride the highs and lows a bit too much, but I've absolutely been riding those highs and lows for the Edmonton Oilers right now. I was down in the dumps after game 3, and now after last night, the way they came back, the way they played, and also the Chris Tanev injury kind of looming. I'm sitting here going, man, if you can steal one game 5 in Dallas, oh my God, a game 6 with the chance to go to the Cup final, I'm getting goosebumps.
So let me ask you, like, what gives you the most confidence? If you had to power rank the things that give you the most confidence after last night's game, what sits at the very top?
In a weird way, how quiet their power play's been. Because it's due, man. It's like when you walk up to the roulette table and it's been red 9 times in a row and you're like, son of a bitch, I'm betting on black. That's where I'm at with this Oilers power play. They are so due for a game where they score 2 goals and take over and have a massive impact. So I think that's one reason to be really confident in the Oilers. The Tanev injury is honestly probably 2. If he's unavailable for game 5, this is a Dallas blue line that's already running Ryan Suter and Alex Petrovic on the third pair. Alex Petrovic hasn't played in the NHL since 2019 when the Oilers had him and then casted him away because Peter Chiarelli, well, that was just a Peter Chiarelli scramble move. I don't need to get into that. But the point is, Dallas's blue line could be really banged up. Dallas hasn't been a good home team in these playoffs. They're under 500 at home. So if they're coming back home banged up, I think I'm starting to lean Oilers there as well. And also, let's talk about Stuart Skinner. I mean, since they went back to him in game 5 against in game 6 against the Vancouver Canucks, he's been lights out. And I know a bunch of people piled on that goal he gave up in game 3, and I've talked to Carter Hutton, a couple other people, Jason Demers, guys who play in the league, and even they were all kind of like, it's a mistake, but it's not the worst goal you can ever give up. Jason Robertson had a ton of time to try and make a play, so I think Stuart Skinner is also in my top 3 because he's now been good for 6 straight games, and it feels like we're back to getting the same Stuart Skinner that this team was getting back in January and February.
And a big contributor for this team right now is the coach, Kris Knoblauch. I would have not thought that depth would be winning out for the Oilers, but they are literally pulling guys from the AHL, taking guys off of whatever press box floor would be, putting them in the top 6 and getting results. Oilers have 8 goal scorers this round to the Stars 7. And I know that's not a huge discrepancy, but it's a discrepancy that favors the Oilers. It even being close would surprise me because Dallas is the deeper team. We've always thought they were the deeper team. It comes down to the coach pulling the right strings, though. What did you think of all the changes that he made going into last night? And at this point, do you think he can do no wrong?
Honestly, kind of. I'm everything he did worked, even if it seemed insane. Philip Broberg hasn't played a hockey game in hadn't played a hockey game in over 40 days. And what did he do? He slid into the lineup, looked incredibly mobile, and looked like exactly the piece that they needed to play next to Cody Ceci. You look up front, Corey Perry has been very slow, very ineffective in these playoffs. They throw him back in, and he's grinding on the cycle, keeping plays alive. Ryan McLeod was terrible for pretty much both of rounds 1 and 2. They sit him for 1 game, and a lot of people were like, why are you only sitting him for 1 game? Is that really the reset he needed? Okay, turns out he is. And not only does he put McLeod and Perry back in the lineup, but he plays them with Leon Draisaitl. I don't think we've seen that line together at any point in the regular season. He throws them together. I tweeted, I was like, this is a smokescreen, right? They're going to do it for 2 shifts and try to maybe mess with what Pete DeBoer wants to do on the line matching front. No, they ran with it the entire hockey game, and they got rewarded with the first goal of the game with Ryan McLeod finishing it off. It was the all-redemption goal with Perry and Darnell Nurse picking up the apples. So you look at those 3 changes he made, and all of them, I wouldn't even say they were base hits. I think the Broberg one was, as close to a home run as you can get when it comes to tinkering with your third pairing. I thought putting Ryan McLeod back in was a home run, and Corey Perry picked up his first point in the playoffs in his 11th game. I'd say that was a solid double. It was all good.
I saw your tweet that said this must be a smokescreen, and I wasn't going to do this, but I thought if this is actually a smokescreen, I'm going to kick Kris Knoblauch's ass because this is not the time of year where you use useful time to practice and to run lines and to build chemistry to throw out some fucking fake thing. Whoever's going to be playing together needs to be playing together, practicing together, skating together, taking line rushes together. And wouldn't you know it? That was actually the team's second line, and it was a good line. Stunning.
Would you
pulled all the right
return it for
strings.
Game 5? I asked this to DJ earlier. Like, would you return that line for Game 5? Because it's on paper, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, it is a weird thing to look at. I would run it back, though. One thing we have seen with Kris Knoblauch in these playoffs is he doesn't really like messing with a winning lineup. Even look to when they pulled Corey Perry out, and a lot of people are like, is this just maybe a one-game thing to send Perry and even the team a message coming off a loss, and then you bring him right back in because he's a good vet? No, Corey Perry ended up having to sit out for 5 straight hockey games for this team in the playoffs. So I don't think Knoblauch's going to want to mess with a winning lineup. So I think they're absolutely going to run back the same group heading into the next game. I think Broberg's got to stay in. He looked really, really good. And the forward lines, I mean, again, they got 5 goals from 5 different goal scorers. I don't think you mess with that.
Meanwhile, what do you think the Stars do? Because I don't think and I don't think that DeBoer has a sense of like, oh no, we let this one slip away, we're blowing it, et cetera, et cetera. But with Tanev potentially out, how do you think the Stars react to truly a shocking loss for them?
Yeah, I mean, up to nothing. And the one thing is, on the road in these playoffs, they've been so damn good at preventing goals. They had 3 road games against the Vegas Golden Knights, allowed, I think it was 2 goals, 2 goals, and 2 goals. Against Colorado, 3 road games, allowed 1 goal in each of them. And now last night they're giving up 5. And I know one of them is the empty netter from Mattias Ekholm, but even 4 is out of characteristic. Even the 3 they gave up in Game 3 in Edmonton is uncharacteristic of them. So they need something to shore up the defensive side of their game. I really did think Rupe Hintz was going to be that, the way he kind of rejigs everything in the forward group. But maybe they reunite that Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson line and try to see if that group can find some chemistry for them and start pushing play back in the other direction. Because the other thing about Dallas is last night there weren't long stretches where they were controlling the puck in the offensive zone. They weren't setting up these big long cycles where they have Edmonton hemmed in, which they did so well in Game 3. It felt like Dallas just kind of was trying to run and gun and get these breakaways and these odd mans. And if it wasn't that, they weren't generating. So I think they need to get back to being able to establish long cycles in Edmonton's end, because the best way to make sure Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl aren't hurting you at the other end is to keep Edmonton in their D zone. So maybe going back to like that Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson line can do that.
Yeah,
You're right.
That's a
Constant
good
one
point.
and dones.
That's a good point, because in Game 3, I thought Dallas's biggest strength was that they were so good down low, and it just allowed them to control that offensive zone time. And you found Edmonton hemmed in so much. Like Joe Pavelski, something needs to happen with Joe Pavelski, because he's been so bad in this series. And we mentioned earlier the what was the line? The Pavelski, Marchment, and Duchesne.
Yeah.
Like just useless. So I don't hate your suggestion there. DJ, you have anything else?
Yeah, well, I asked Pete before, like, why do you think Connor McDavid has been so much better against the Stars than he was against the Canucks? I would have expected against a better opponent that he would struggle more, or not struggle, because McDavid doesn't struggle, but like, why do you think he's gone from second round against Vancouver, we have questions, is he healthy, to conference final against the Stars, who are expected to maybe come out of the West? He's the best player in the series.
Yeah, so like we know there was an illness that went through that Oilers locker room right in the middle. And if you want a great source, my boss Jay, who you see on our show on ON Everyday once in a while, his daughter is in, I think it's like a swimming class with Mattias Ekholm's daughter. And we heard through that grapevine that Mattias Ekholm was very, very sick in that middle round. There was even a clip from it's a hilarious story that he told on the show. But there was a clip from the Oilers like behind the scenes show where Mattias Ekholm got the Player of the Game award, and Warren Fogle goes to hug him, and Ekholm goes like, "No, don't touch me." So like the illness that ran through the Oilers room, the point I'm getting to, I think was maybe worse than the Oilers let on in the public, or worse than the media even covered a little bit. And I think Connor McDavid was really affected by that. I think another guy who was really affected by it was Zach Hyman. He came out in Game 1 of this Dallas series, and he's looked like Zach Hyman of old again. And he really wasn't in Games 5, 6, and 7 of that Vancouver series. So for McDavid, he went from, not shooting the puck at all to, in these last 2 games, he's racked up 11 total shots on net. he's looking back to being dangerous McDavid. And I'd probably slot that at number 4 in my reasons to be optimistic. Like, he had a 3-point game yesterday and basically no one talked about it. It was one of those sort of sneaky, dangerous nights from McDavid where he's creating every time he's on the ice. And, maybe he's not scoring the big goal or doing anything super flashy on the power play, but he just quietly finds a way to dominate the play when he's on the ice, which is so weird to use the term McDavid and quiet together, but you get what I'm saying.
You're obviously very close to the media scene in Edmonton. Did you feel like it was unfair the way that Darnell Nurse was being treated in the lead up to that game? Obviously, he had his media availability yesterday was a little short, and I don't know, even the Bieksa reaction last night on Sportsnet, calling the Edmonton media, what was it, dead, raw, dead, and dumb. And basically implying that Darnell Nurse was getting unfairly cooked by Edmonton media.
He compared them to, he said, I call them the Edmonton meat because they're, has anybody ever called meat dumb? Hey, we're like, I'm grilling up burger. Hey,
I got some real dumb burgers
hand me
on the
some
grill.
of that stupid chuck, will ya? That didn't make sense to me, but whatever. Shout out Kevin Bieksa. It's a good question, though. Do you think that any of the Darnell Nurse stuff was unfair? Because Pete and I were a little taken aback by, look at his response to how he's being treated. And it was like, I wasn't happy to fucking, I know I'm not Edmonton media, but we weren't happy to say that Darnell Nurse was sucking.
But also, it would have been unfair if Darnell Nurse was excellent for 10 games and then had one bad game and everyone was quick to jump on him and be like, not worth the contract. He's been below average most of these playoffs, save for maybe games 6 and 7 against Vancouver. He hasn't been looking like a $9.25 million defenseman at any point since that extension has kicked in. So I don't think the reaction from the media and also the fan base was unfair at all. And when it comes to the way he handled his scrum the other day, I'm on the fence about it because there's a part of me that goes, hey, I like that he goes out and kind of puffs out his chest, and he was kind of smirking throughout it. And it was more of like, all right, I'm going to show you guys. Like, you guys wanted to sit here and talk your shit in your columns and whatnot, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to back it up. I'm not going to talk to you guys. I'll do my little thing so I don't get fined Marshawn Lynch style. Then I'm out of here. What I didn't like about it, and I feel the need to bring this up because I criticized Evander Kane for it coming into the playoffs, is Darnell Nurse made himself the headline, right? He could have very easily went out there, given some cliche answers about whatever, and no one would have been talking about that scrum. Instead, he goes out, does what he does, and now it's going viral. Now everybody's posting it, and it's a massive story. And all it kind of did, I think, was put more pressure on him, because if you do that and you come out and you play bad again, oh boy. But he came back, and despite the really, really tough start, he turned it around and I think had 2 of his better periods of the playoffs in the second and the third. So again, I felt like it was maybe like a bit of a risk from Darnell Nurse to do that, because if you play bad, you just make yourself look like even more of an ass. But in hindsight, you look back on it and go, he had some swagger and I don't mind it.
Yeah, he was very good at activating. He was very good on the offensive end of the ice. I wanted him to get that goal on the net drive before the McLeod goal so bad. I wanted it for him so bad.
Tyler, what are we going to do about there's been a lot of got to get you out to Edmonton, got to come here for a game. I'm looking at the Moss Pit last night, and man, what a fucking, but you guys see during the first period what the Moss Pit was like?
You sent the clip. I didn't watch it.
There's just there's always a dance circle, and whoever's dancing is always good at dancing. I've never seen anything like that in my fucking life.
Is it a ringer?
Maybe.
They hire ringers for the Moss Pit?
Are you hiring we'll say professionals? You sending pros in there to do the dancing?
I don't think so. I think that's just legitimately people who are popping in and doing whatever. But the cool thing is, the Moss Pit gets a lot of attention, and there's usually, 1,000 people and they're watching the game, and that's right in front of the arena, right? And then to the east side of the arena, still right next to it, the Oilers have set up, because the Moss Pit's so full that if you don't show up there 2 hours before the game, you're not getting into it. So the Oilers have set up another one on the east side, and it's this massive tent that holds 5,000 people, and it gets as loud in there as it does in the arena. And then that started to get too full, so they had to do another one outside of the tent. So there's actually 3 jammed packed watch parties going on at all times in Edmonton, which is part of what I love about the city, man. It's the joke is that, there's nothing to do but watch hockey. I know Nikita Zadorov said that, but honestly, everyone in Edmonton loves the Oilers, and I love the way the city shows out.
That's amazing. I think if we go, are we like overflow moss pit guys, or do we try to get to the OG moss? I like the idea of getting in on the ground floor of one of the extra moss pits.
Moss Pit 3.
Yeah.
We're founders of like Moss Pit 6.
I've been pricing flights, man. I don't know if it's feasible or how it can work, but if the Oilers are to win, let's say 2 more games, it's tough to think like we gotta get involved somehow. We've been involved. We've been watching every second of this stupid season. But man, I want to get out there. How's just like you mentioned that everybody, it's a fucking scene for the games. Like, is it a daily, like constantly every conversation in Edmonton is holy shit, they're doing it?
Yeah, pretty much. And like everyone has like car flags in Edmonton are such a massive thing. Like everybody has car flags on there. You'll see guys in their F-150s. They make oil rigs and put them in the back of their trucks. That's like a relatively common thing to see. You'll be like, oh, that's a really nice oil rig. Good on that guy. Like, it's just weird, man. Or like it's great. I don't know. It's
Sean's
just so
smiling
Edmonton.
so much.
Did I see at last night's game they were giving out free Oilers tattoos?
Yeah, they have a tattoo artist. They have 2 of them now set up on the concourse. Our graphic designer at Oilers Nation, Kennedy, went and got one the other day. Zach Cassian, when he was in town to be the alumni of the game, he went and got one. So yeah, you can just walk on the concourse. They have the 2 little tattoo beds, and they'll tattoo a little oil drop on you.
That's incredible.
Oh, and they also had a mullet stand the other day. They had a hairdresser set up, and if you went up to her, she'd shave your hair into a mullet.
I did see Oscar Clefbaum was on the Jumbotron last night. Did he just like disappear forever ago? And you guys, I mean, I know that Oscar Clefbaum like had his injury issues and had to leave, but like, has he not been around the Oilers at all? Because people were going crazy when he was on the Jumbotron.
Dude, and we love Oscar Clefbaum. Like, it's such an under-talked about thing of the Connor McDavid era when you talk about how, like, poorly the team's been built at times. Their best defenseman, who was on the best contract in the NHL at $4.1 million, disappeared like that after the bubble season. Like, he just left.
Sad.
And it's so sad. And like, again, for him, his shoulder was just so messed up that he talked about how he could have kept going through the rehab and surgeries because he had been through surgeries already. And he was like, at some point in my life, I want to be able to lift up my kids. And he's like, I can't do that if I keep playing hockey. So he's straight up been in Sweden. Like, I don't think he's been back to Edmonton in 2 or 3 years now. So it's super sad, man. But when he came on, man, did it ever get that crowd going? Like, Edmonton loves Oscar Clefbaum.
I love that all 4 of the remaining markets and teams just have such different vibes, but vibes that are very specific to them. Dallas, I think you could argue, is maybe still trying to kind of feel its way out, but in Florida, you got the Rats and everything, and if he weren't canceled, there would probably still be some Kevin Spacey thing going on. And with New York and Edmonton, it seems they lean more into the like getting people and showing the celebrities. And in New York, they're like, hey, it's Steve Sharippa from The Sopranos. And everyone's like, yeah, we got celebrities here. And in Edmonton, they say, look, it's a guy who fucking recently played for the Oilers, and he's 30 years old. And how about that? And he gets a bigger response than any of the people I just named could ever get. I love that about Edmonton.
Yeah, and like, so they do an alumni of the game where they show their highlight reel and all that. So yesterday, the other alumni was Jason Smith, Gator, the captain from the 06 run. And he stood up. They just put him in the crowd too, which is so funny. They don't like put him in a suite or anything. So he's just amongst the people, and he stands up in a Jason Smith jersey and just takes off his jersey, balls it up, and just yeets it into the crowd and just throws it amongst the people. It was awesome. But also, okay, on the Dallas Stars thing, rightfully so, but you guys you were part of the charge of bullying the Stars out of doing their stupid AI thing.
Mm-hmm.
They erased it from the site. They're still doing that in the arena. I was down there for games 1 and 2. Like, it's
we know, we got boots on the ground. We were on that. Those motherfuckers aren't hiding from us.
It's embarrassing. Their intro video looks like an Xbox 360 launch video. You like don't see their normal mascot. Instead, they just have this like Dr. Doom looking guy walking around in like all silver. It's so cringy. Everything about it sucks.
I don't understand what they're doing identity wise. I really don't. And I want them to figure it out because I like the Stars. They've got good fans. How was your experience down in Dallas other than the bad presentation?
Oh man, Stars fans are so nice. Like they're actually the best. I didn't have one like negative interaction. There was one guy who came up to me and was like, "Hey, I don't care that you're here, but you bumped my sister." And I was like, "Dude, I didn't bump your sister. Like I've been standing here." And he just went, "All right, enjoy the game, man." And I was like, "Well, that diffused insanely quickly, but thank you." But yeah, man, it was really cool. They're so nice. Everyone down there was just like, "You guys came from Edmonton for this? Whoa." And like they were mind blown that we could even get there. It was great.
Well, you almost didn't, right? Like you had a horrible journey down to Dallas, or was it back to Edmonton?
It was back home. So we went Dallas to Nashville, had a direct from Nashville back to Edmonton. We sat in the airport for 6 hours. Then they canceled the flight. So we had to get a hotel. They lost all my recording equipment in the airport for like 4 hours. So I was sitting at a baggage carousel for 4 hours. Flash forward to the next day. We needed to make it home for puck drop. So we woke up at 3 a.m., flew from Nashville back to Atlanta, went from Atlanta to Vancouver, and then Vancouver finally home to Edmonton, landed 45 minutes before the puck drop. It was a long, long day. Our feet touched kind of the 4 major time zones in North America.
That's fucking crazy.
Man.
Not for me. I would have just been like, I'm not going to the game tonight. I'm going home and sleeping for 12 straight hours.
Once the equipment was lost, I would be like, wherever I am right now, I'm just staying for the next 2 days. And I'm just like hitting pause on this terrible life that I'm leading. But man, now I want the Oilers to win even more because you guys are really getting put through your paces, but you're killing it. And we appreciate you jumping on, Tyler.
We can't let the Stars in this horrible AI thing get to the Cup final. We need the vibes of an Oilers Cup final.
I disagree. I have money on the Stars, so
I'm
selfish and I like the Stars and I still believe in them. But I love you anyway.
Yeah, that's why I only invite DJ on Oilers Nation every day.
That's fair.
We all silly like the mayor.